What's up, guys? It's me again, Christian Rodriguez, and I'm going to make it a bit of a quick video, but I wanted to talk about why you need to become an effective communicator, right? And if you're starting a business, right, not even just a business, I think whatever, regardless of what you do, you need to become an effective communicator, right? Especially you want to make more money, right? Because in order to make more money, you don't just make the money. Like it's not something that you just go to your room and you just start creating money in your room. No. What happens is someone has to give it to you, right? And in order to do that, you need to be some sort of an effective communicator. You could be you could be amazing, you could be very skilled at something, but if no one knows you exist, then no one gives a flying F, right? So it's very important to be an effective communicator. And in this case, what do I mean by like being an effective communicator? Like how do you do that? What do you do? I always talk about it. Why don't you get a sales job? And if you're young, right, and you're not sure what to do for a career, why don't you just get a sales job? It's it's probably it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be enjoyable, right? Unless you enjoy that stuff. Some people aren't. Some people, if you're like naturally shy or you're just introverted, like you're not used to like talking to people, this is the perfect job for you. It's perfect because what you need is you need to build thick skin. That's one. Two, you need to get better. You need to get good at reading people. Get read it. Good. Excuse me. Get good at reading people's body language. You have to get good at listening to people, right? Because people talk a lot, and sometimes you got to find out what their bottleneck is. And yeah, you have to be able to handle even objections, right? Even when they say no, you have to get good at maybe overcoming, changing their no into a maybe or a yes, right? Without forcing them to do it, because I'm not the biggest fan of those type of sales guys, the ones who twist people's arms to do the sale. I don't like those. I think those are unethical, and I think people who do that are long term. It's not good. It ruins their reputation, right? Short term, it's amazing because you're making the sale. Everyone thinks you're a killer salesman, but long term, it's terrible. It's not good, right? And I don't think you should bully anyone to buy your product. They should buy your product because they chose to buy your product and they wanted to, right? And that's what causes buyer remorse, by the way. But back to the topic, to be an effective communicator. Sales naturally just makes you a better communicator. It makes you better at just reading people. It makes you better at talking to people. It makes you better at improvising at the spot, right? When people throw maybe a complicated question at you, or if someone reacts emotionally, which it makes you better at dealing with conflict. It makes you better at dealing with confrontations, right? And then I would say another thing that's really essential to do to be an effective communicator would be studying human psychology, human nature, right? Because when you study human nature, human psychology, you understand what makes people tick. You understand what makes people what motivates people, right? Like what influences people, because people have different influence triggers, right? I've talked about this. I talked about the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. I even made an entire video on it. I highly recommend you watch it. But basically, influencing people it's very essential, right? You have to understand like some people are more influenced by social proof. Other people are influenced by maybe a specific authority figure. Others are influenced by how scarce it is. They might buy it if it's scarce. If it wasn't scarce, they probably won't care too much, right? Some people are influenced by reciprocity. Maybe you gave away something for free and they feel more entitled to or obligated to return the favor, right? So you have to understand that part of human nature, and that takes. I would say you have to study it, also experiment with it. But I highly recommend you read Influence by Robert Cialdini, right? And another book I would talk about too that you should probably look at is Win Friends and Influence People. Because another thing about an effective communicator is if you tell people Say you want someone to stop uh you want someone to stop drinking, right? What you shouldn't tell them is to stop drinking, because it's going to make them want to drink even more due to the scarcity principle. It's going to it's going to make someone feel like their freedom is limited, or you're taking away their freedom. So they're going to want to do it even more, right? So what you need to do, instead of telling them not to do it, I learned this from Win Friends and Influence People. Recommend them. I don't recommend that you drink. Obviously, you could do whatever you want, but I highly recommend that you don't drink. But if you choose to do it, go right ahead, right? Obviously, say it in a better way than what I just said. I'm just using it as an example. But I learned this from Win Friends and Influence People, because when you tell people what to do, people are less likely to listen to it. People don't like taking orders. People like getting advice, but people don't like taking orders. So just remember that, right? Um, and you have to be willing to just make you have to be willing to think a bit from the other person's perspective when you speak, right? Because when you speak, many people want things done, and they think giving orders is what gets people done. That doesn't work. That might make the other person resentful, like, oh, that asshole, I'm not listening to him, right? Or they might listen temporarily and then keep doing what they were doing because they don't really believe what you just told them, right? Another thing too that I learned from Win Friends and Influence People that you should really start doing is the criticizing, right? No one likes to be criticized, right? No one likes to it. Um, right? Dale Carnegie would describe it by, if you want honey, don't kick over the beehive, right? You don't want to kick over the beehive, because if you kick over the beehive, then a swarm of bees are going to come and sting you. Obviously, that's a figure of speech, but what Dale Carnegie was really saying is that if you want something done, instead of criticizing someone for being wrong, right? Instead of criticizing them because you probably made the same mistake before, right? People may make mistakes all the time, right? You say something that makes them feel good about themselves. Maybe you say something like, "I see potential in that," or you give them a role. You tell them like, "Oh, I was like, I know you're." I was like, "You're naturally good at this. You're naturally a good leader, aren't you?" Right? If you tell someone that, they're gonna feel amazing about themselves. They're gonna think, "I guess I am a natural good leader, huh?" And they're gonna start thinking about it, and they're gonna like actually think that they can do it, and they're gonna start acting more like a leader because you gave them that role, right? It's like it's a it it's an influence tactic. It's very effective. But these are examples of just being an effective communicator, because you're gonna have to deal with people, right? Even if you're a family man or woman, you have to communicate with your family members, don't you? Right? You have kids, you have your romantic relationship, you have other family members, you still have to communicate with them. So this is very effective. I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe. I'm gonna keep creating more content, and take care.